Hello and welcome to another entry in Kalkine Media's Invest Nest webinar series. Now, this webinar is called Insights from 3 ASX mining companies amid commodity price swings. My name is Rachel Jones. I'm anchor and reporter with Kalkine TV. I'll be your moderator for today. Now, before going ahead with the session, it's important you're aware that this webinar is for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or a recommendation to engage in any investment activity under discussion. We're neither licensed nor qualified to provide investment advice through this platform. Now, the key idea of InvestNest webinar is to present our audience with a panel of experts who will share the potential of their businesses and their growth strategies along with their company's value and vision. We uncover the unheard stories from business leaders on how they work towards success. This event aims at sharing heaps of insightful business information and guidance on emerging themes and breakthrough trends in the Australian markets. The business presentation will be for around 15 minutes by each speaker and followed by a Q&A round. The webinar attendees can post their questions in the Q&A chat box during the webinar. Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, we're unable to take your questions live, but they can be sent to us at info@kalkinemedia.com. This webinar will delve into the exciting prospects that lie ahead for gold and copper mining companies. Now, first off, we have CGN Resources. Their ticker code is CGR. They're a mineral exploration company focused on the discovery of gold, copper, nickel, and specialty metals. The company is making steady progress in advancing and promises new targets across its key projects. Now, that's the Webb project in the West Arunta origin of Western Australia, the Christmas Well project, and the Panhandle project near Leonora. Secondly, there's the Far East Gold Company. Their ticker code is FEG. They're an ASX-listed copper and gold exploration company with a portfolio of 6 advanced projects across Australia and Indonesia. The company is currently undertaking an extensive drilling program at its Idenburg Gold project in Papua, Indonesia, and it's aimed at expanding its resource base and unlocking further exploration potential. Next up is Viking Mines. Their ticker code is VKA. A diversified developer and explorer focused on precious and critical metals. The company is actively advancing its first hit gold project and Canegrass battery minerals project in WA. So I'm happy to introduce our speakers for the day. We have Stan Wholley, Managing Director of CGN Resources, Mr. Shane Menere, CEO and Director of Far East Gold, and Mr. Julian Woodcock, Managing Director of Viking Mines. So first up, let's start with Daniel Wholley, Managing Director of CGN Resources. He's a seasoned geologist, entrepreneur, consultant, and executive with over 30 years of experience in the mineral industry. He's successfully managed and delivered exploration projects targeting iron ore, base metals, gold, and uranium across more than 15 countries. As a consultant, he's provided strategic advice to the boards of companies, ranging from junior explorers to major mining houses listed on the stock exchanges of Australia, Canada, and in London. So if you would like to share your presentation with us.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks Kalkine Media for the opportunity to talk today. For those of you who don't know the CGN story, we listed on the ASX in October of 2023, and our core aim has been to make a major discovery targeting copper, gold, and critical metals. Our primary project in the West Arunta was the basis of our project, but we have also been developing some, I guess, more gold-focused projects around Leonora. The company name CGN stands for copper, gold, nickel. When we first started out, that's what we were looking for, but thankfully one of our neighbours has made a major niobium discovery. So our name still works, and we too are now looking for a little bit of niobium in our property. There we go. I just clicked over the disclaimer page, which no one reads anyway. But I guess the investment highlights for us are our location in the West Arunta and in the Yilgarn goldfields. We've got some quality neighbours. Our major project, the Webb project, is about 961 square kilometres, right in the heart of the West Arunta region. We're surrounded by Rio Tinto, IGO, WA1 on our northern border, and Encounter Resources as well, all of whom have had some success. Our core business is exploration, and we say all the time we just value doing good geoscience, as we think that's a great way to making good discoveries. We do have multiple high quality, high priority targets to test this year and into the future, and our core targets are IOCGs, some nickel. We have rare earths in there and niobium, and they certainly are part of the mix. I guess for a small company that's recently listed, we are still very well funded with 5.3 million in the bank, which gives us a great cash runway to do exploration. I'd say, look, the three things to take away from this slide is our capital structure. It's a very tight structure, quite tightly held. So if we do make a discovery, I think you can see that share price increases would be likely one of the pleasant likely outcomes from that. Our shareholder group, I don't know if anyone's been following our story or seen a similar presentation to this, but that central donut there hasn't really changed since listing. The top 20 shareholders still hold 38%, and they are a mix of the directors and board and managers, and as well as some high net worth investors that we brought in as resource industry investors that like that exploration story and can see value in the uplift. Thankfully, even though they've had opportunities to sell at profit, most of them are hanging in there, don't sell, and in many of the cases, they actually support us through buying still. The board is very experienced. It's a very lean board. We believe in spending our money on exploration rather than directors, but Daryl is a 40-year veteran of the resources industry. I'm a 35-year veteran, I suppose, of the industry and a geologist. Daryl's a metallurgist, and Grant is an accountant, all of whom have quite a bit of directorial experience and management experience. We also have a number of, advisors in the geology and technical space, geophysics, that we use to help us do our work. Look, our core business is exploration, and we like to think it'll be high impact when we make a discovery. Our tenure, as you can see there, is the red tenure in the centre of that colourful map. I would say all the people that have dared to go and explore in the West Arunta have tasted some success. There's been some copper discoveries. I think the poster child for discovery and success has been WA1 on our northern border there. They went there looking for IOCGs and discovered a carbonatite, and that has transformed their company. They only listed a year before us. And at the time they made the discovery, I think they were 13 cents, not far from where we are now. And over the course of the last couple of years, went as high as $23 a share. So a small company looking for big projects and making a discovery is highly valuable. And we'd like to think that we can emulate their success over time. Since we've listed, we've been very busy out on our project. The projects we have listed here on this slide just give a summary of what we did last year, which was some basically ground-based geophysics. We did ground gravity to help us refine the airborne gravity that we'd done the previous year as a private company, just to help us focus in on the drilling and targeting. We did IP over our major IOCG targets, and we did some EM over our nickel targets, and they all had some pretty interesting results. We followed up with some deep diamond core drilling at our Tantor and Souris projects, and did some RC. at Shep and Hathi. We didn't make a major discovery, but we did learn a lot through that process. And we did have some interesting success around the Shep project. The area is very poorly understood from a geological concept. There's not a lot of outcrop, so most of it has been, I guess, inferred from geophysics. We went there and we saw some interesting geophysics that we thought looked like a ultramafic sill, and a number of the holes in there had sort of plus 1% nickel values in there. So we went and targeted that. We confirmed that there is a quite substantial ultramafic lamprifier sill in there. And our EM generated those 4 square block plates. And sadly, we couldn't get to drill the biggest one last year due to heritage constraints, which we've since reversed and have heritage clearance to go and test that plate. But where we did just tag the edge of that in our last RC hole, it hit 36 metres at 5 ppb AU, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in an area that had never found gold before, it is very interesting. And within that 36 metres, there's also 14 metres at 0.21 nickel, and quite extensive pyrite through there, and various carbonate alteration and hematite alteration. So we're quite excited to get back there this year and do some additional drilling and really test that plate. And subsequent to doing this drilling, we've done quite a big structural study on there, and there does appear in that sort of blue valley to be a major structure that runs right through our project, and so we're quite interested in targeting that. And the IP for that target sort of aligns quite nicely with that structure. The IP also, I would say, improved our targets of Snorky and Horton, which came out of our original airborne gravity survey. You can see on the right of that image some sort of cross sections through Snorky and Horton with some gravity shells on there, and you can see that there is also quite significant chargeable anomalies from the IP coincident with those. We did do some pre-collars for these deeper targets last year, and they will form part of our forward exploration plans. I think probably the most exciting part of the work over the last year, after drilling, we spent quite a bit of time refining our project offering. We did a large gravity survey over the northern section of our tenure, which really hasn't seen any exploration of note before. There's in that sort of Kandula and Elmar prospect, there's 1 or 2 holes looking for diamonds. In the Elmar prospect, there's no drilling in the Kandula prospect, but it has quite interesting magnetics. What you see there is a gravity image, and we did a really integrated targeting study, bringing in our high resolution airborne gravity, our high resolution mag. We did a structural study, we did mag inversions and gravity inversions of all of that, integrated that with the regional data sets, and it's delivered us a suite of what we have as our, I guess, highest priority targets, which are listed on here. There's probably another 20 that we could list, but it just looks a bit busy if we put them all on there, and we can't test all of them this year. So we're going to test a couple of these targets this year. We're going to test Kandula 4 and 5, Elmar number 1, and our Shep targets. There'll be a mixture of RC and diamond drill holes, and this image is, I guess, a bit of a summary image showing the very densest part of our gravity anomalies. So they would be, I guess, above 3 milligal anomalies. The Kandula 4 and 5 get as high as 5 milligals at their core, and you can see sort of the magnetic features that sit adjacent or in some cases coincident with those. So we're quite excited. We would say Elmar and Kandula are really IOCG targets. The Kandula 5 is probably more of a nickel target, a structural nickel target, and Shep is a gold target. It's a bit of a busy slide, this one, but I guess the thing to take away from it is that the gravity targets that we are testing this time are large and very dense. They have coincident magnetic responses with them, and Those are all positive attributes of IOCGs. We did some surface geochem, just trialing it out here because there is quite a lot of cover, dune cover. So we used an ultrafine technique, and all of these targets came back with sort of elevated responses for our IOCG index. So we're very excited. In many ways, these targets are probably superior to the ones we drilled last year, but we didn't have these data last year. So we are really excited about getting out there and testing these. It's very exciting to go and do real exploration, challenging exploration in areas that are untested, but are known to have large mineral systems present. Sort of middle of last year, we saw that gold was moving, and we thought that it sort of fitted with our strategy of doing exploration, and it'd be nice to have a project that we could look at in the off season. We are restricted by weather up at Webb. It has quite a wet season from pretty much November through till now. We thought we were safe to go this week, but there is another cyclone bearing down on us, but we're still going to push ahead. We don't believe that that's going to impact us at this stage, but this gold opportunity sort of grew out of I would say, a geoscience review of where we could actually pick up tenure that was vacant, or we could assemble tenure from some other groups in areas that had demonstrated endowment, a strong geological concept to target, that existed on a major gravity ridge, and had nearby substantial mines, and the Christmas Well and Panhandle projects fit that quite nicely. As you can see on this diagram, we have the sort of highlighted section in there. That's a magnetic image. It's just the GSWA magnetic first derivative image. And we've put on the sort of actual mines that have been mined. Sort of Tarmula, or they call it King of the Hills now, up to the north. That's a 4 million ounce deposit. Gwalia, 8 million, and perhaps growing from there. Tower Hill, 500,000 to 1 million. Callus, I think that's about the same. And then a number of sort of in that 250,000 ounce size. And this Rayside batholith, which is the left part of the diagram, and you've got the Walloona Norseman Belt greenstone, is prolific even as you move further to the north. We just felt that that piece of tenure that we've got there at Christmas Well overlies a really interesting part. And the reason I think there isn't a mine there, or a gold mine there, is there's a drainage system that runs through there, which has, when you hold a whole lot of tenure, and this area has been very tightly held by St Barb, Sons of Gwalia, and currently Genesis, they have a lot of other targets to test which are not undercover, so they tend to focus on those. We think this is a really interesting story. We've done the sort of data assemblage over this area, and I'm not sure if you can read that, the writing is a little small, but I guess the takeaway is where our tenure exists, it's either undrilled or it has drilling at 400 to 1 kilometre line spacings. And some of those drill holes have, there's 3 meters at 1.5, there's 2 meters at 2, 3 meters at 1.9, and a number of just under 1 mil intercepts, which have not really been followed up in a systematic way. And so once we have this tenure granted, we will certainly get out there and test some of these walk-up targets, but we're also doing quite a bit of work in conceptual targeting out in that E out to the left. There is an obvious, it looks like a piece of the greenstone belt has been folded around into the Rayside batholith, and it's never been tested with drilling. So we're quite excited about this tenure, and hopefully some other tenure that we might be getting our hands on in the near future. We like to think we have an exciting path forward, and I think we do. We've got a number of targets to test, which are exceptionally good targets for IOCG and carbonatites. We've done the sort of work on the left on time and on budget. We have heritage clearance across all of our targets to drill this year. We've completed the surface geochem, which came back with some really interesting and positive results. we've refined our targets down to the sort of 4 target areas that we want to test. If we have success in our initial drill holes, we have heritage clearance to expand drilling substantially, and we have the money to do it. So we're super confident and super excited to be getting out there and commencing those drill programs. We have the drill rig mobilising from Alice Springs on Monday. So, I'd like to think we'll be drilling by the end of next week and for the next few months. And so that'll just roll on. And so you'll start seeing results from that initial drilling come in probably late May, and then hopefully more and more results out through till the end of the year. Should our tenure at Leonora get granted, we're hoping that'll be by mid-year. We'll probably get out and do some work on the ground there as well. In terms of an investment summary, after all of that, I think we've got a really, really excellent locations for both our projects. Our neighbours have demonstrated high endowment with mineral systems of note. We're well funded. We've got 3 million in the bank. 5.3 million in the bank, and we plan to spend on exploration. That's what we do. We've got high quality targets. We've got a really high quality team with substantial experience in the West Arunta and in the West Australian goldfields. We have a really great relationship with the Jamu Jamu native title holders. We were the first company to do an agreement with them, which is one of the reasons we have such a commanding land position up there. And we have a really good relationship with them in terms of getting work done and getting clearances done. Our surface geochem, ground geophysics and drilling to deliver that we're delivering this year, we like to think will be very high impact at 9 cents a share, with a market cap of just under 10 million and 5.3 in the bank, and a share registry of $110 million. A small or even better, a large discovery will have that powerful results on our share price. So thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much for your presentation there, Stan. It's very interesting to see the progression you've made on some of those high quality targets you've got there. Best of luck for the future. Yeah. Let's hope that cyclone stays away and the weather stays good for you.
Yeah, it's going to weaken. It keeps saying it's going to weaken. So let's just cross our fingers on that. It's pretty sporadic out that way. So we're confident we'll get out there next week.
Absolutely. Good luck to you. Thanks for that, Stan. Next, we're moving on to Mr. Shane Menere, CEO and Director of Far East Gold. Now, Shane is a seasoned leader with over 25 years of experience managing large-scale resource and infrastructure projects around the world. Shane has a strong track record in guiding projects from exploration through to operation and has spent more than 15 years supporting major mining operations across the Asia-Pacific region. Now, Shane, if you would like to share your presentation with us, please.
Well, thank you very much, Kalkine Media, and thank you everyone for attending and listening to the Far East Gold story. For those of you who have been following our story, you'll know that we March 2022, and we were one of the most successful IPOs during that year. Of course, we enjoyed a pretty heated time and shot all the way up to 67 cents. Before coming back down and hitting the grindstone with a lot of others also competing for the same media platform and stage and investment funds. So we've been fortunate enough to attract some very good investors over the months and now years, and put us in a quite a good position, I believe. I'll cover shortly in terms of attracting strategic partners and investors alike. So jumping straight in, we've got a portfolio of 6 advanced projects in Indonesia and in Australia, Queensland. In fact, over $50 million has been spent on these assets over the period of time that we've had them. And 63,000 meters of drilling has occurred. Now, that was partly due to us and others prior to us. We've got a very experienced board, and what's very important when you're multi-jurisdictional, as we are in a place like Indonesia, is to have experience in Indonesia. There is, a general consensus of a higher risk in Indonesia. I've been up there about 17 years or so, a little bit longer, in fact, and when you know the lay of the land and you know how to do business up there, it's really quite smooth and quite enjoyable. It's a good landscape to do business. And not only that, the government has changed its policy in terms of centralising a lot of decision making in the mining sector. The government is very clear that mining and the natural resources in Indonesia are significant, and they nurture the business associated with mining development really very closely. So we've got a good relationship with mining departments and local and central government alike. There is potential on a couple of our sites to go into a production position in the near future. Moving into that environment is on the radar right now. So we've always positioned ourselves as an exploration company, and we're good at exploration, and we're good at the commercial aspect of pulling some positions together in the mining space. With myself, I've got quite a bit of experience getting sites into production. In fact, I was supporting many larger sites throughout Asia Pacific for many years prior to starting Far East Gold, and consequently, really quite comfortable to make that transition into production. Now, we're not steering away from exploration. We know that there's exploration to be done, but now that we've pulled in some very good strategic partners that I'll discuss in a moment, with plenty of experience down that path from greenfield into production, it's a natural progression for us to go down that path. We've raised, as you can see, a number of times, been oversubscribed when we did the initial IPO, and a number of placements along the way to keep the pace that we're blistering along at. And what's important is Shenye, being a Chinese company, one of the biggest producers of silver and tin in the world, and I believe that with the recent acquisition, they're now the biggest silver producer in the world, and the third in tin, I believe. Don't quote me on that one, but it's along those lines quite closely. Now, they committed $14.7 million to take a 19.99% strategic position with Far East Gold, and we're very excited to have them on. As I mentioned, they are really quite well experienced in getting greenfields into production. In fact, their chairman, Mr. G, who we've got a great relationship with, sees the story playing out again. For him, this is how he did it. He started with acquisitions, got into exploration, and took them into production. So we're developing a very nice partnership environment to go down into that path. We have some significant blue sky opportunities across our tenements. World-class jurisdictions. They're located in Indonesia and in Queensland, of course. And the last point I'll just mention as well, we do have a second strategic investor who is most interested in Trenggalek, which I'll explain in a moment as well. And that's Eurasian Resources Group, which is a multi-billion-dollar private company, mostly owned by the Kazakhstan government. And they saw the value in one of our tenements in Java, being Trenggalek. Top 20, 61%, and much as my predecessor just mentioned, we really haven't moved that dial too much as well. The people that came in the beginning have stayed with us, and obviously, they diluted a little when our strategic investors came in, but largely they've stayed on and followed their cash position up. And you can see our top 10 shareholders in there. I'm running in there at number 6 now, or number 7. And Justin Wynn as chairman is their number 5 position. So yeah, we've positioned ourselves to stay in that top 10 and following our position as well, with the directors being over 12% holding their position. Quick overview on the board. Justin Wynn, you may have heard that name before. He's Nickel Industries CEO and founder, or co-founder, I should say. He's been very successful at creating a multi-billion-dollar nickel company in Indonesia. So that's a producing company, obviously. He's paved the way. Justin and I have known each other for many years, and when I had this great idea to start Far East Gold, being the original founder and co-founder with a couple of guys, I pulled Justin across, and we've developed it along with Paul Walker, who was the chairman for quite some time as well. And now that Justin stepped in, we're positioning ourselves to emulate that model, the Nickel Industries model, which is again taking greenfield and through production. Next director you may be interested in represents Shenyang. That's Monique Tang. She's actually an Australian Chinese, and she's been fantastic, supporting us and getting us into that strategic partnership environment. One of our largest vendors in through our tenements has a board position represented by Michael Thurnbeck, a geo who's been operating up in Indonesia for many years, over 25 years, I believe. Paul Walker, as I mentioned, was the original chairman with me when we co-founded the company, and Dr. Chris Atkinson is a geo entrepreneur, been operating in Indonesia for also 25 years, I believe. And he's been instrumental on some of our decision-making commercially to get into the position we are. By way of summary of the tenements themselves, we've got Wholley. You may have heard of the Gosowong mineralization or project that's up in Halmahera in Indonesia, really quite a famous one. We're considering Wholley to be very similar, geologically speaking, and we've done a lot of exploration up there, 3 phases of drilling, and we suspect that at some point, we've made many discoveries. We've hit some very good grades of gold, and we've hit some very thick seams as well. There's about 26,000 meters of strike length that we've uncovered up there, but we're stitching it all together and looking at what a JORC is going to look like as we bring it all through and together. Heidenberg is our latest acquisition. This one is something that I've had my eye on for quite a number of years, and it's the same vendor that we worked with Wholley. She was so happy with us, what we've managed to achieve in Wholley, that we stepped in commercially as the next step with Heidenberg. We took some historic data and relocated drill collars and did quite a bit of on-ground work to produce a maiden JORC up at Heidenberg late last year, 540,000 ounces at 4.1 grams per tonne. Now, we also did an exploration target, and taking into the 14 known prospects at the time, but we've added another one in terms of a new discovery, taking it to 15 prospects. That gives us an exploration target of 7.2 million ounces at 6.1 grams per tonne. So we're talking about something of global significance if we can produce the drill tip results as good as we're hoping to, certainly anticipating. Now, so far, what we have produced on that maiden JORC of 540,000 ounces across 3 prospect areas, being Suwa, Bermol, and Mafi. Now, those prospect areas are showing exactly in line with what those exploration targets were estimated to be. And everyone knows that exploration targets can be a bit of a crapshoot at times. We've been conservative with how this has been calculated, and what we're seeing is that each prospect is in line with the drill tip is telling us. So really exciting stuff. If we're going to approach those sorts of numbers, you know, we're talking about something of world-class significance, as I mentioned. We are currently in the phase of acquiring our 51% of that project right now as we speak. So what we have to do there is do $5 million worth of exploration work, which we have well underway, and as soon as we've satisfied that condition, we have 51%. We currently control the project contractually, and we're very happy with our partner and vendor being the same one as Wholley, as I already mentioned. So I think I skipped over, we're already owning 51% of Wholley, and we're making our way through to the 80% position and possibly even up to the 100% position very soon. Trenggalek is a large-scale porphyry system in Java. There is some epithermals there as well. We're drawing a direct comparison with the Tujuh Bukit project, which is about 80 kilometres as a crow flies to the east, and that hosts 30 million ounces of gold, equivalent 18 or 19 billion pounds of copper. So it's a monster. It's got to be more than one of them in Indonesia, and we're hoping that we've got it there, geologically speaking, right next door. That was originally owned by a lot of the bigger players, and Anglo was trying to get and drill their prospect at Sumber Bening, which at the moment, which they unfortunately didn't get to. Now we, with our local knowledge and network and so forth, have been able to make that acquisition, take 100% of Trenggalek, and we're currently in the final stages of drill planning there. It has been drilled, some test drilling has been done, but the number one areas have never been tested, and that's our number one priority, to go in there ASAP and prove that up. And then finally, Wonogiri and Mount Clark West. Wonogiri has got 1.15 million ounces with 996,000 ounces of gold. And the AUEQ is 1.15 million ounces. Now, it's open at depth. We believe it's got some really interesting upside there. And there is a structural corridor that runs through the southeast. And that's you know, it could show bigger and better science as we do a little bit more work through there. We do own 100% of Wonogiri at the moment. Now, Mount Clark West is one of our Queensland tenements. It's a porphyry system in the Drummond Basin area. We own 90% of that as we speak, and we think that it's worth drilling. We've applied for the Queensland CEI grant. Hopefully we get some good news on that very, very soon. But either way, we're going to drill that and pop 3 drill holes in that one, and hopefully we're going to see some good mineralization. It has been drill tested previously by a prior owner, but it appears that they clipped the edge of a porphyry system. So we've now got some better modelling, done some geophysics, done some BIMDAS, all the IP work, and we suggest that we're on the right path this time around. Just a quickie on Shanye, our strategic partner. They are a 19.99% shareholder, as I said. They saw the value in Far East Gold, so much so that at the time they paid quite a premium to come in fact, about a 47% premium. As I said, you know, they saw the value, so that really speaks to the confidence of quite a successful company. The confidence in their investment in Far East Gold coming in, and their intention to take us through our next phase project development into operation. They are working very closely with our geo team and a few of our people in management, including myself, to cover our exploration plans and take a look at how we can improve our systems and processes and results. This is a recent meeting we had up there, a strategic alignment meeting and so forth. The other one is the Eurasian Resources Group, who I mentioned, with a particular interest in Trenggalek, and they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation as well, and you know, one of the biggest cobalt producers in the world. So I've spoken a little bit about the projects, and I'll just keep to the slide deck, but I've already said quite a bit on these things, so I don't want to bore too many people. But the Eidenberg project is our flagship project, and it's huge. It's 95,000 hectares. It's sitting in an amazing jurisdiction in the Papua area, but that's still the Indonesian side of the PNG island. Now, to the southwest is Freeport. Everyone's heard about Freeport. It's 100 million ounces there. Also to the southwest is Wabu, which is quite a well-known project area for those in the know in Indonesia. Going over the border is Oktedi in PNG, which has 20 million ounces, Wafi 30 million ounces, Lihir 60 million ounces, Freda River and Porgera and onwards. So we're really in an amazing jurisdiction, and that particular project of ours sits right in the middle of that neighborhood. As I mentioned, we've got 15 prospect areas identified. There was 14. We found a new one, which I'll talk about briefly in the next slide or two. Owned by the previous companies developing the project with the likes of Newmont, Newcrest, and Placidome and Avocet, and they've done quite an extensive amount of work up there. Now, how we you might be asking yourselves, you know, why are we different, and how is it that we ended up with these tenements and these bigger guys didn't? Price of gold was certainly a determining factor. You know, a number of years ago, at the time when some of these bigger companies were in a controlling position of these tenements. Being well connected and knowing how to do business in the region is pulling in local partners, pulling them in on the journey, and developing the assets with the local government has been the key to our success. Bringing the community on the ride, the journey with us has been really the key in how we've turned this into a very good support network of community, industry leaders, and government, all helping, all supporting, all behind Far East Gold to develop the projects. As I mentioned, 7.2 million ounces at 6.1 grams per tonne. Wouldn't it be great if we can achieve that? But the plan is to methodically go through each of the project areas and drill test them. We can acquire up to 100% of Eidenberg as well, with some earning commitments. As I mentioned, $5 million is our first step. Now, we're very well funded, with certainly with Shenye coming in, and currently our cash position is around about 12.5 million still in the bank. So plenty of funds to do all the exploration work that we want to do across the entire portfolio. We do have a very busy portfolio, I will admit that, but we've got a very good team in place to manage that, and a good plan moving forward through the rest of this year to really create some value for these assets. This is the Eidenberg program. You can see the particular prospect areas here. If you can see my cursor, there's the Mafi area, the Suwa area, and the Bermol area. These are the three that produce the 540,000 ounces. These are the three that we're going to test extensions on, running north-south, well, northeast, southeast, southwest. We also have made, sorry, I missed one, Kwapulu. You can see my cursor over here. That's an untested area other than rock chip sampling and outcropping sampling and so forth, we think this one's pretty special. We've seen very, very good grades through here. Yeah, we look at the 50s and 60 grams per tonne through Kwapulu, and some of the Burmol grades are running at the 20s and the 30s, and the Maffeys and the Sewers around certainly the mid-teens to upper teens as well. So we intend to drill those 4 particular prospect areas, 32 holes at 3,670 meters. Now, this is elephant country. We do have a main road that runs straight down through the middle of Edinburgh. Utilising that good logistics and getting the machines, the drill rigs, in those particular prospect areas. Now, it runs close to, you can see it there, actually, relatively close to Maffey. So we're going to start our base camp and so forth in that Maffey area, start the drilling further down Burmol, Maffey and Burmol. So we expect that this will be a number of months, 4 to 5 months of full exploration work. But the good news is that in Indonesia, assay results come back very, very quickly, and drill rigs can move also very quickly in terms of demand for exploration. It's not as high as in Australia and so forth. So we get things moving very quick. And in fact, we have drill rigs on the water as we speak to go up and do that second round of drilling, the first for Far East Gold. The new discovery area. We just released an announcement about this last week, and we called it the East Burmol system. It's showing 5-meter thick veins and some really lovely grades in through there. The initial rock chip samples of 8.5 grams per tonne and almost 32 grams of silver. In that particular area around there, the Burmol, North Burmol area, recent grab samples are showing those very high grades there, 53 grams a tonne, 19, 16, and the 8 that I already mentioned. Really interesting stuff that we're seeing at Edinburgh. We're quite excited about it. You can see the map on where it's located. This new project area here, and you can see some photos of our geo team in there with that. And you can see that it's a country, but we do have the ability for access to get in there. No helicopters required on these ones that we've chosen. There will be some areas in the future that would benefit from helicopter work, but not at this stage, and certainly not with what we're trying to produce and show right now. The exploration target, right down the bottom right-hand corner, 7.259 at 6.1 grams per tonne. I've said that a couple of times. On the other side of things, you've got a much lower range at 189,000 ounces. Now, we've already proven that to be much higher at 540,000 ounces. So this was done before the JORC was produced. But those exploration targets always show a very big spread. So obviously, we're shooting for the upper range. Our drill plan in place takes us down that path, and our pre has shown that the Sumat, Burmol and Maffey areas producing what we expected to see there. Trenggalek in Central Java, East Java, I should say, and very close to that other Tujuh Bukit project that I just mentioned with 3 million ounces of gold. This is a operational permit, so technically we can go in and operate this one immediately. Now, it's not as easy as all of that, of course, because it's we've got to do the exploration. We've got to get to that point where we can prove it's certainly a worthy project. It has had extensive exploration before, 17 doing extensive geochem rock chip sampling, IP work. Our plan is to take all of that and do ourselves in that Sumba Benning area, which, as I mentioned, was that #1 prospect target for Anglo, and prove that up as a good mineralized porphyry system. You can see that this has been identified as the one of the top 3 projects by the Indonesian government. So it really lends itself to a high quality project, and certainly being supported by the local government, local and central governments. Now, we recently did a structural analysis of Trenggalek, and that gave us some good ideas about where to go and what to do, but most importantly, which particular prospect areas to prioritise. So, independent of Anglo's original assessment of Sumba Benning, you can see there up in the top left-hand northwest corner, that pink ellipse. So independent of their thinking, we've done our own work, and our geo teams come up with a very similar conclusion. We tested that theory yet again and ran that up with ERG, Eurasian Resources Group, and they've come back again with a very similar intention or priority to go into the Sumba Benning area first. So 1,400 meters, and it's just the 2 holes. So they're 2 relatively deep holes to test that porphyry system. So there'll be a total of 18 holes for 5,740 meters. Now, the reason we've got so many holes is because that Bularoto area, we believe, is a porphyry underneath an epithermal system. So something's got to be feeding that epithermal. So there has been quite a bit of drilling done in that area before, shallow on the epithermal, and we're going to continue to test that extension, and we're going to drop a couple of deeper holes and test for the porphyry system as well. And then Singahan, which has been previously drilled, showing 0.6% copper. We are going to drop a couple more holes there again and test for a slightly different area, but test for mineralization there again. We think between ourselves and ERG, we've come up with a good potential target, and those holes will be tested very, very soon. As I mentioned, the Sumba Benning prospect, and we're likening that, I think I've already mentioned a couple of times now, to the Tujabukit area. You can see those particular rock samples showing very similar textures to what is being found at the Tujabukit area, which is, again, that 30 million ounces of equivalence in gold. It's fundamentally a porphyry system, the same as Trenggalek, but you see the bottom 3 samples there are from Tujabukit. The top 3 are from the Sumba Benning area in Trenggalek. And this is for anyone who's interested. I'm sure this presentation can be shared, but this is where our actual drill tip is going to go, and this obviously can be the resist and chargeability of the IP work that we've done. And this is in the Singahan area, the 2 drill holes there. And then you can see also there's a number of more shallow holes that will eventually pop in there as well. And the Bularoto area, this is the epithermal system, if my cursor is showing up, and then a couple of deeper holes that will drop being displayed on the right. Bit of a better display there, obviously, on the right of the epithermal drilling and so forth. The Wonogiri prospect or project is a 1.15 million ounce equivalent JORC resource with 996,000 ounces of gold and about 190 million of copper. There's been over 21,000 meters of drilling that's already been done on that project. And that project is a very sound project, and we're in the final stages of doing a scoping study on it now. And we're seeing that it's looking like a very economical project, especially in the environment that we're in for gold at the moment. It is open to depth. 458 meters was the last intercept, still mineralized and still open. There's a number of epithermal veins around that particular area as well that are certainly worth testing. Now, what we're doing with this particular project is, as I mentioned, finalising that scoping study and getting to a point of much better understanding of what to do here. We're also extending the exploration permit as well as we speak, which is looking quite positive. The 3D modelling, 3D of tips, and you can see that little blob down there in the bottom mineralisation at that 408 meters. Now, the Wholley project. If you are following the Far East Gold story, you for sure would have heard of the Wholley project. We have done about 26,000 meters. I'm sorry, 21,000, just under 21,000 meters of drilling there, 133 holes. As I mentioned, we're showing some great grades there, which is 81 grams per tonne, 24 grams per tonne, 28 and 38, just to name a few. We're also seeing those big, thick seams. What we haven't managed to do at this particular point is to stitch all of that together and find those big, thick seams with those high grades. We're finding the high-grade pocketed areas, and we did a really detailed scout drilling program across these veins, testing them agnostically, not chasing the grade, not chasing those pockets, but just trying to understand that system, because it's quite a complex system up in the Aceh area. So we've been really successful in developing a very good database of and understanding of the project area. So we're taking a deep breath. We're looking at what that looks like in terms of extending the exploration permits, in terms of what that means for going into a feasibility study and so forth. So that's where we're positioning ourselves now. We are an exploration company at this particular point. We are also a relatively small team, and there's just so much we can do. So we're focusing our efforts in on Idenburg and Trangalic as the number 1, number 2 drilling priorities, and doing some desktop study work on our last year's work at Wholley itself. So we plan to move that into an 80% position of ownership now that we've done our exploration, satisfied all of our earning commitments and so forth. And we'll continue working that towards a maiden JORC. Oh, that's just a summary, of course, of Wholley. Nothing I haven't already said in there. The Australian projects. Far East Gold has Mount Clark West and Blue Hill Creek. Mount Clark West, as I summarised, is a copper porphyry system that we intend to drill properly this year in the not too distant future. And Blue Hill Creek is 3 tenements in the Mount Coolin area, gold tenements. So we're in a very good neighbourhood there, right by GBM Resources. Mount Clark West, just by way of review, again, I've already spoken quite a bit about it in the opening remarks. It's a copper gold molybdenum system, exploration target between 400 million tonnes and 650 million tonnes, 0.4% to possibly 0.6% copper. So that's nothing to be turn your nose up at. It's really quite a good system. We've got high hopes on Mount Clark West. We've just never been in a position to drill it previously. We've always been focusing in on the Indonesian projects, but it's been my intention to bring a little bit of attention back to the Australian projects this year, which is exactly what we'll do. So we'll drop a couple of drill holes in there, and 3 drill holes in fact, and see what we come up with. So 1,800 meters. 3 by 600 to test those 3 particular areas there. We think there's 3 porphyry centres in Mount Clark West. We're drawing a comparison, by the way, to the Cadia North Parks district area in New South Wales. Now, that's quite a big call, but all those characteristics that we're seeing are very similar. And by way of a summary, so Far East Gold, we've got a substantial global JORC in position already with 1.536 million ounces of gold, JORC compliant. So potential increase that significantly. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but the plan is with Idenburg, with this current drilling program, to take it from its 540,000 ounce resource to 1.5 million ounces. So we think we can achieve that with this particular drilling program. That's certainly our target. And then obviously what we see at Trenggalek and what we see at Mount Clark West will be a huge bonus as well, but we won't be able to take those to a JORC. They're going to be testing for mineralisation in those porphyry systems. Very well funded, good drilling programs in place, good exploration plans to increase shareholder value. That's balance sheet for us is, it couldn't have come at a better time in terms of having that funding behind us and having those strategic partners in place. We think it's transformative on who we are as a company. And we expect to really gain momentum down this path of project development this year, certainly in the latter part of this year as we start to see the results come in from Idenburg. And of course, not to be forgotten, the market conditions at the moment of gold are great. In fact, I think it went up another $100 odd today, if I'm not wrong. 3,300. I think I dropped down a bit earlier. So we're in the right place. We're in the right space. We're in the right jurisdictions, and we've got the right partners, and we're certainly well funded. So we think we're in a really good position. Very exciting times ahead for Far East Gold. Thanks, Rachel.
It's great to see the projects you have going on in Indonesia, but also to see the plans for Australia too. And you're right, we have a lot of resilience in our gold prices at the moment. So that's something to be very happy about. Thanks once again, Shane, for that presentation there. Moving on now, we're going to speak to Mr. Julian Woodcock. Now, he's the Managing Director of Viking Mines. Hi, Julian, if you're there. Yep. His career spans 2 decades in the exploration and production of various commodities across multiple countries. His experience includes roles in international open pit and underground production geology, as well as a decade as exploration manager in the WA goldfields, where he led large exploration teams and managed multi-million-dollar budgets, driving projects from discovery through to development. Thanks, Julian. If you would like to share your screen now and share your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Rachel. Can you see my screen there?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. All right, that's great to see. Well, thank you very much to Kalkine Media for affording us the time for this this quick 15-20-minute presentation. I look forward to being able to take any people that we have online through what the story is with Viking. The usual disclaimer, we've released this on the ASX as per our disclosure requirements, so you'll be able to have a look at that at your leisure. Just a quick company overview. Viking Mines has been around for a while. The code is VKA, the ticket code, and that stems from Viking Ashanti. We did used to have assets in Ghana a number of years ago, but we no longer operate in that jurisdiction. We're now certainly WA focused. The map in the bottom right there shows our main projects. We have the Riverina East Gold Project, which is the one I'll discuss at length today. as well as the Canegrass Battery Minerals project, which is a vanadium project, which has great opportunity and value. Just at this stage, unfortunately, the vanadium price is not really where we would like it to be, but we see potential for that to come forward in the future, and there's certainly an additional opportunity for investors. The share price at the side there, 0.7 of a cent, actually had a bit of a run today. We're at 0.9. That's increased our market cap up to about 11 or 12 million, 1.3 billion shares on issue. We're very tightly held top 20 over 50%, and directors have skin in the game with in excess of 12%. An experienced board with a diversity of skills. Dr. Julian Stevens recently joined. He's a geologist like myself, so we have the opportunity to engage and beat around geological ideas. Charles, our chairman, comes from a financial background and broking, and Bevan accounting as well as a broking background. First hit is the mine that is within the Riverina project, and again I'll cover length in the next slides. We've got a large land package, a couple hours north of Kalkine, very prolific terrain. Historical mine produced over 30,000 ounces at nearly 8 grams a tonne, and we have a remaining resource of 19,000 ounces at around 7 grams a tonne. And we're near some large operators. So we've got the Ora Banda Mining's Riverina operation. Ora Banda Mining is close to a 2 billion market cap, potentially more, company, and their mill is just 40 km south. So I'll just move forwards and start talking about the Riverina East Gold Project. This map sets the scene. There's huge amounts of gold endowment on this map. Kalgoorlie Boulder, the Golden Mile, owned by Northern Star, is the jewel in the crown on this map. But what I want to draw listeners to attention to is the Zulika Shear Zone, which runs off the bottom of the page from St Ives Ground down in the south. St Ives is owned by Goldfields, through the Kundana camp, which is owned by Evolution Mining, all the way up to the north onto our tenure. I spent a number of years as exploration manager working down in the Kundana area. In that district, you have these narrow vein, high-grade deposits. A standout is the Raleigh deposit. This deposit was only 50 centimetre wide vein, but averaging 50 grams a tonne, 600 metres of strike length, 600 metres of vertical extent, produced in excess of 1 million ounces. There's a number of these styles of deposits, and the reason I'm using this as an example is that's what we're exploring for up in our terrain. And the historic first hit gold mine within our tenure had the same style characteristics. Our tenure is a rather large 480 square kilometre land package shown in the top left corner of this map. And as I mentioned previously, it joins Ora Banda Mining, where they have their mill at Davyhurst. There's two very large and local camps, which we describe with a large endowment. The Riverina camp immediately abutting us, over 1.3 million ounces in historical production and resources. And just 40 km south of the areas we're exploring, the central Davyhurst camp, which is well in excess of 1.2 million ounces historical production and remaining resources. And that's in the same stratigraphy that we're exploring. That's a really key thing to remember here. We've undertaken some early stage drilling, and I'll explain in further slides how early greenfield style exploration we're undertaking. We've got a patch of ground that's seen little exploration. And we had some very early successes, 27 meters at 0.4 grams with assays up to nearly 3 grams in a wide space drill environment where there's been no prior testing. We've just completed a 6,000 meter second phase drilling program, and assays are pending, and we expect that news flow to come through over the next month. So just to set the analogue of what we're exploring for the first hit mine, this was operated in the early 2000s, closed when the gold price was low at $325 an ounce. And as was just recently noted, the gold price is close to 10 times that at the moment. The map here, also the long section here, shows the underground workings that were established. The salmon pink colour here on the right, and in between the bright pinks and yellows and greens that we have here are the stopes. That was what was previously mined out when the mine was in operation. But due to the low gold price, there was material at the time that was deemed uneconomic and was left behind. And this is what we have estimated. So the bright coloured images, blocks on this image, is the remaining resource, which is nearly 84,000 tonnes for 19,000 ounces. At the current gold price, that's close to or in excess of $100 million Australian worth of value of gold in the ground. This is on a granted mining lease. We've got the infrastructure you see in place, some high grades, 4.9 metres as a standout at 65 grams, but 3 metres at 77, 4 metres at 26. So we see a huge opportunity potentially to extract future value from this. And to determine that, we've got underground mining studies in progress, which we'll look to complete and subsequent to the outcome, report the outcomes to market. Just to illustrate the style of vein, and I've talked about the Zuleika shear having the style of veins. Here's a 40 centimeter wide piece of core, quartz vein running 120 grams a ton, absolutely littered with visible gold. The selvage, the margins of the vein here, again, another 8 centimeters at 17. So for context, and this is important when I get to the next slide of where we're exploring, we're looking for the proverbial needle in the haystack. We're looking for 1 meter, 2 meter, maybe 3 meters, at double up to triple digit grades. And these style of deposits usually have north and south or whatever orientation along strike from those styles of veins have lower tenor values in the 1, 2, 3 grams or measured in gram meters, thickness times grade, up to sort of 5 or 6 gram meters. So we're using that analogy and concept in a broader exploration space to explore for this style of vein. Just to visualize where it is we're exploring, the Riverina mine is 8 kilometers to the south. This is the first hit mine that I've just taken you through the long section with the infrastructure associated in place. The next slide, which is the larger portion of the exploration program that we're undertaking, is the area to the left here or to the east, as we're looking south of our project area. And this area has seen, prior to our work, virtually no bedrock drill testing over 25 kilometers of strike. To put this into a map picture, the sort of gold colors here outline our tenement package. It's running through the center. The 25 kilometers of strike of the Zuleika shear, which is a prolific structure, as I mentioned, running hundreds of kilometers, runs right through the side of our controlled package. The first hit mine is just to the west of that structure. The Riverina mine sits in here. Now, the coloured dots on here is all the drilling that's been completed prior to our undertaking in the area. And you should note the green drilling is bedrock drill testing RC. The blue dots is shallow auger RAB drilling, which is essentially just looking for an anomaly. Now, you should note that there's a touch of green at the bottom, and then all the way through the rest of this 25 kilometers, there was no bedrock drill testing with RC drilling. There was a few ineffective RAB lines where the cover was good, and that's the type of drilling that doesn't test down into the hard rock. It just tests the weathered rock near surface, and a few lines encroaching through here, which were again ineffective vertical holes. So we've come to effectively, and I call it a greenfield, unexplored block of ground adjacent to a very mature brownfields area with 1.3 million ounces contained within these blue circles. We undertook our first program at the north, at the Bifrost prospect. We drilled some traverses where these pink lines are, noting that the width between these is well in excess of a couple of kilometers. For scale, the Riverina long section, the mine owned by Ora Banda Mining operating down here, that's what that mine looks like when you look at it from side on. That can fit between our drilling. And we had successes with the first results, 27 meters at 0.4, including meter at 3, meter at 1.1, meter at 1.5. Second line, 23 meters at 0.4, including 5 meters at a gram, 3 meters at 1.3. And these are open north and south. So now we're looking at infilling on those, and I'll touch on those in some subsequent slides. We move to the next part of our program. We're testing what we call the central duplex target. Again, we've completed 4 traverses in these salmon pink lines here. And those assays are pending, and we expect to report to market. All these targets have been defined by geochemistry, where we've had soil sampling, as well as the geophysical responses that we've seen. So over the next slides, I'll just look to hone in into the results from that northern drilling at Bifrost. So the northern traverse, where we got some results, so you'll see the drilling here. We effectively have a strategy, because we're looking for these very narrow veins. We need to cover the ground heel to toe. So the drill holes are designed to test the bedrock. The end of the hole starts where the next hole begins, and that means we get full coverage. And this proved very effective. In the central area here was where we got a hole that initially returned 27 meters at 0.4. We turned the rig round while we saw an opportunity and drilled a steeper hole from the existing drill pad in the other direction. We got 17 meters at 1.1 with 2 meters at 3.1 grams. And this is what we can see in this photograph here. We've got this albertized altered zone within a host rock called an ultramafic, and we saw results up to 3 grams. So whilst still narrow and still a ways to go to define a deposit. The next drill line was 1.1 kilometres north, the next drill line to the south, similar distance or further. So there's a lot of space to be working in. On the back of these results, we went out and undertook an auger soil sampling program to better define the anomaly and place our next drilling. This was successful. It defined the 400-metre long 40 parts per billion gold anomaly, corresponding with where we had the drill results, as well as a broader arsenic anomaly, which again we demonstrated with the Pathfinder. So it proved successful. On the back of this definition of the anomaly, we drilled another these blue triangles here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes, and those results are currently pending and the samples are in the laboratory. Moving a bit further south, again, a couple of kilometres south, the next drill traverse. I haven't got the grades coloured up on this long section, so apologies for that. But we had effectively a zone in here, 23 metres at 0.4 grams, big broad alteration zone. Within there, some stronger responses, 5 metres at 1 gram and 3 metres at 1.5 grams. So again, we took the same strategy. We put an auger program covering the whole area. Again, proved successful. Interestingly, just to the south, we got the stronger anomaly, 0.3 kilometres at 40 ppb and a broad at 0.7 kilometres at 20 ppb. And the strategy behind this is, well, we don't know if the first drill line has been put in the best place. So we want to, when we get a hint of where the structures are, we want to be then following up our drilling north and south or in whatever appropriate direction. Again, we plan to follow up 8 holes, the blue triangles in here. Those have been completed and we're waiting on the results within the next month. We also drilled a couple of holes following up around these results, and again, eagerly awaiting those. So our strategy, as I've explained for you, is initial first pass programs, wide space drill traverses kilometres apart, just to give us an idea of where the favourable part of the geology is across this very large area, 25 kilometres of strike, about close to 70-80 square kilometres that we're focusing on. Those heel trove traverses give us the geology. They identify structures that we know now contain gold. Any 1 to 5 gram metre intercepts are of interest for follow-up back to that Riverina mine long section. Really within 100 metres north and south of this deposit, you get that tenor of result, 1 to 5 gram metres. First pass drilling was at Bifrost, 7,500 metres with success straight away with the drill bit, followed up with the geochemistry to define the anomaly, and now completed the second round of drilling on those targets. Phase 2 RC drilling, testing another target using the same strategy, and these assays are pending. So we're optimistic that we know we're in a long strike of gold structure that hasn't been previously tested, and we're getting results with our first pass indications. I neglected to mention earlier, we ended the last quarter with 4.7 in the bank, $4.7 million, and we have a substantial amount remaining and to fund another subsequent rounds of drilling, which we'll be undertaking. So to wrap it up as an investment case, the Riverina East Gold Project, gold is very hot, as has been mentioned several times at the moment. A lot of opportunity for new discovery, a very tightly held share structure, which could see a significant re-rate. We're testing high priority regional targets along a long structural corridor. We've got assays pending from the subsequent drill program, which could come soon, and any intercept of note, a couple of meters at double-digit grades, like I've showed this region tends to produce, with rapidly adding ounces, could see a significant re-rate of our share price. Canegrass Battery Minerals Project, I haven't touched on here, but if you have a look at the release of this presentation, there's a number of slides at the back outlining that project. That's of significant value as an asset for the company as well. So any investment gets diversified exposure to a suite of commodities, 100% controlled land packages, all within the WA jurisdiction, exceptional location to be operating. We've got 20,000 ounces nearly of existing defined resources. We've got an underground assessment underway to see potential value for that. And as I said, the in-situ value is excess of $100 million at this stage, with existing infrastructure to get in there. And the phase 1 drilling has delivered a gold discovery with assays up to 3.2 grams a tonne, where no prior drilling had been completed, with for 20 k's to the south and 3 k's to the north on our tenure. So with that, I think I'll wrap that up. Thank you very much for your time. Rachel, thank you very much for hosting this webinar. And any listeners, if they would like further information, please visit our website, check out LinkedIn or Twitter, X as it now is. We have a lot of information shared on there, and sign up to our MailChimp to receive our announcements in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julian. That's a very insightful presentation there. Congratulations on the discovery.
We have kept time there, Rachel. I understand that it's 15 minutes, I think it's the time frame.
Yes, no, that's fine. I think we got a really good overview of Viking there. So thank you so much for that. Now, we have had some questions come through from our audience. They've been coming through thick and fast. So Stan, if you're still there, if I could go back to you. Stan Wholley from CGN Resources. We have a couple of questions which I'll direct to you about your company. What makes the West Arunta region so prospective?
Well, what took us there was the fact that it's the right type of rocks, the right age rocks. It's been demonstrated over time that period, the sort of Archean and Proterozoic, it was a fertile period in the geological history of the Earth. And where we are, it's a triple point boundary between a couple of different geological terrains, which means there's been a lot of pushing and shoving of the rocks over a long period of time, setting up some very deep-seated faults that really are mantle tapping, so they go very deep, which is a positive place for large mineral systems to make their way up through the other rocks, the host rocks, and be deposited. And we're fortunate that a number of people in the district have now seen that the precursor company to us, GeoCrystal, went there looking for diamonds and found Australia's largest kimberlite field within our tenure. They went there and drilled a number of holes, and the kimberlites couldn't find any diamonds in their kimberlites, but there's still a couple of hundred to test. But I guess it's that kind of thing that demonstrates like very deep mantle tapping structures are present. There's been long-term magmatism in the area. Our neighbours to the north, WA1, went there like us looking for IOCGs, which have and ended up finding a carbonatite rich in niobium. But what that also demonstrates is that there's these very large mineral systems that can make their way up from the mantle and into the host rocks that we're now looking at. So it's the right type of rocks, a very long geological history, good structural preparation, and demonstrated sort of mineral-rich systems penetrating into it. And the best part is it's really underexplored because of its location, partly the fact that it's covered by, dune sands has, I guess, precluded a lot of people from going looking there. Heritage was an issue for a long time. A number of companies held the ground before us but couldn't do a deal with the traditional owners. I think the traditional owners now see the benefits of having mining companies working with them. It's sort of presented them with opportunities. They do a lot of our earth moving for us. They're always out there helping us with clearing. So, yeah, that's my answer.
Great, thank you. And Tim wants to know, back to the web project, what are the main objectives of the drilling campaign there?
So, yeah, as I alluded to in my talk, our targeting is greenfield targeting. We go looking for big mineral systems. So for us to generate a target, we go through quite a rigorous ranking process. The targets need to be large. They need to have large scale potential. They need to be regionally significant gravity anomalies with a magnetic anomaly associated with it. We've subsequently done this ultrafine surface geochem, which has also demonstrated that there is certainly elevated minerals which are aligned with IOCG. And so we use all that to select our targets. The targets that we're hitting with deep diamond drilling have ticks for all of those things. And so our objective now is to go and test those gravity targets, really. So we aim the drill bit at the densest part of the gravity anomaly. if we can, we sort of try and align it with the mag, but we think the gravity in other IOCG systems, it has usually been the gravity anomaly that has held the best mineralogy. But success for us is obviously finding a major mineral system, but that might not be, the first hole may not be, 250 meters of +1 copper. It might be some little bits of copper in a major alteration system. If you look at something like Prominent Hill or Carapatina, they didn't hit it on their first drill hole, but they did hit mineral systems and then they followed them up. So that's our objective, is really to find large mineral systems that we can then test with further drilling. I like to think that this hole will have hundreds of meters of copper and gold mineralization in it, but let's wait and see.
Is hoping. And Mr. Biggs wants to know, finally, what are the key goals for CGM for the rest of this year?
Look, as I said, we're an exploration company. We run a very lean ship. We have a small board. The board is quite technical. I have one other geologist that I work with. We use some high-end consultants. So success for us is going out and testing our targets that we generate. We don't want to, we want to succeed or fail fast. We don't kind of like the idea of just, ambling along and sort of ineffectively using shareholder money. We want to go and make a discovery and push that forward. So for us, it's get the drill rig on site. That's happening next week. We'll be drilling those targets over the next couple of months. When you go to somewhere that's never had a hole drilled in it before, you don't know what you're going to find in terms of rocks and that. So we're sort of saying there'll be 2.5 months of drilling. I'd like to get our Leonora stuff granted and get out there and test some of these things that pop up in the historic data. And yeah, pretty much go out and do high quality drilling, have success, make a discovery, smother ourselves in glory and reward our shareholders.
Excellent. Sounds perfect. Thank you so much for your time there, Stan. Moving on to Far East Gold and Shane Menere. So Shane, Jessica wants to know, what makes the Eidenberg project significant?
The jurisdiction where it sits geologically it's got a long history of proven high-grade positioning there. Now, as I went through a little bit earlier, the Freeport site and the Porgera, Lihir, all surrounding that particular area have proven very, very high grades and very high volumes as well. That the resources in there are absolutely world class. So we've already proven that there's very high grades, and we're well on a track to proving that there's greater than 1 million ounces. We're 540,000 ounces now. So the drill plan that we've got in place should take us, certainly with a target of around about 1.5 million ounces, and we're still looking at between that 4 or 4.1 as it currently stands, our JORC, up to the exploration target at 6.1. So somewhere in there is where we suspect our average grade is going to be, and the target is 1.5 million ounces. So only 30% of that particular project area has been mapped. In that area, 15 prospects are very clear and have been detailed and tested and so forth, and 3 of them drilled. So if all remains constant and right across that tenement there's mineralization, there'll be a number of other prospect areas that we can add onto that current 15 number, and it'll keep us going and exploring and developing for years to come. But look, our plan is to utilize Eidenberg as the flagship, and look into studying what production might look like in parallel to exploration. Now, with our partners are really interested in Eidenberg as well, and so we're going down that path of project development and even looking at what production might look like in the not too distant future. We'd do that in parallel with further exploration.
And one of our viewers wants to know, how do you see Indonesia's role in FEG's growth?
Well, we couldn't do it without them. Look, I'm passionate about Indonesia. Like I said, I've been up there for 17, almost 18 years, I think it is now. The country's been very good to me. The people are wonderful. The workers up there are second to none. I put them against Western trained mining people any day. They're very good quality. The universities are producing mining engineers and metallurgists at a much higher rate than anywhere else on the planet. It's a industry that's being heavily supported by government. So it's just one of those jurisdictions which is mining friendly, and more importantly, it's welcoming foreign direct investment. In fact, it's actively promoting it. And President Prabowo is continuing the policy of his predecessor, Jokowi, not making any changes to the political landscape, and in fact, doubling down a little bit. His family is heavily involved in mining, has been for decades, and we suspect that that'll open a few doors for us as well with the government support.
Fantastic. And just finally, what's your vision for FEG over the next 12 months?
12-month vision. We've got some big plans. Boy, have I got a list of achievements that I need to get done. But Idenburg obviously is the big one. I've got the earning commitment to over a 24-month period to put $5 million into the ground. So we're well funded to do that and to do everything that we want to do. Now that'll take us through to a much higher ownership position, and look, eventually I'd like to try and get that through to an 80% ownership position. And I'd like to have a good study done on what the metallurgies look like up there. We've already done some preliminary work, and under gravity alone, it looks like 55 to 60 odd %, and with CIL plant, upwards of 94 to 95, possibly a touch higher in there as well. But proper studies done to tell us what those recoveries are going to look like, what some mine planning might look like, how much community support there is to go into production, although it's certainly all indications are that the community is right behind us and the government is right behind us. So if we can get all of those things done at Idenburg, I'll be a happy man. But we've also got Trenggalek. Now, if we can have some successful drill tip results there, in particular at Sumber Benning, around about those 0.5, 0.6% coppers, that's happy days, and puts Trenggalek in a possible tier 1 position as well with what we're seeing up there. And then, of course, Mount Clark West back in Australia. I want to get those drill tips turning and show a favourable result. Clipping the edge of that porphyry system has been proven. Now that we've got a better understanding through IP work, we suspect that we're going to have a much higher probability of going right down the middle of that porphyry system and getting some better mineralisation there. So they're the 3 on my hit list to achieve this year.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck with that. And on to Mr. Julian Woodcock. Thanks for your patience there. Back to Viking Mines. Now, we've had Tom asking, what's the progress at the First Hit Gold project?
To divide that, I'm not entirely sure which part of the project. So the First Hit Gold project is the name we used to apply to what we now call Riverina East, and that's the First Hit Gold mine is at the core of that. So if I touch on the First Hit Gold mine first, the key thing I discussed it briefly in the slides is that we are looking at potential ways to unlock the value of that 20,000 ounces. It's a small amount of ounces, but in this gold environment, and as per the sort of theme of this panel and webinar, commodity price swings, the gold price has gone up so much so rapidly, that 20,000 ounces has a huge inherent value. So there is opportunities to chase that ore body down at depth. So if we get any favourable evaluations from potentially extracting that modest resource that we have there, generating positive cash flow, but importantly, getting us to the bottom of the old mine. We have opportunities to chase that ore body at depth. So that's one aspect that the company is looking at. The second part is the broader package, which, as I said, is previously called the First Hit Gold Project, but is now named Riverina East, more related to proximity to the Riverina mine, rather than just the First Hit Gold mine. That area is working through that. So the first round of drilling we completed was at Bifrost, northern target that covered only a few k's of strike of the broader 25 kilometres. Good results from that. We've commenced following up on those already. Central target, we've just completed drilling in there, 4,500 metres, waiting for those results. And then we'll be moving further south. So we're systematically working through the 25 kilometre strike of the Zulinka shear that we have under our control, with the objective of finding new ore bodies. We can see the potential in that ground for comfortably finding something in the magnitude of a couple 100,000 ounces, but potentially bigger with the style of ore body that we're looking for. Certainly, if we find that magnitude of ore body, and given the location, 2-hour drive north of Kalkine, only 40 kilometres to the nearest mill, could see a high value asset being defined very rapidly. And then the board will have the decision on how best to monetize that value for our shareholders. And that could be a range of things, depending on the size of what we find.
Fantastic. And we've had a question here from viewer Michael. How does the drill for equity agreement with Top Drill benefit Viking Mines?
Look, that's, to me, is a great agreement that we've signed into. And Top Drill have been doing this for a number of years, and they were extremely fortunate with De Grey. They did a drill for equity, and then De Grey discovered the Hemi deposit, and the rest is history. How does it benefit Viking Mines? Well, look, as with any explorer that doesn't have a revenue stream, we rely on raising capital in order to fund our activity. We did undertake a raise late last year for $2.5 million or thereabouts into the company. Finished the year with just shy of $5 million. Drilling is an expensive component, and our agreement with Top Drill basically allows for direct drilling cost up to a value of 40% of the invoice to be issued as equity in the company, under a I think it's a 15-day VWAP, sorry, a 20-day VWAP from the date of the invoice. What this means is we can pay part of the bill by issuing more capital, and we don't incur the fees that commonly associate a capital raise through the broking firms, even though there is a slight discount to the share price. Essentially, we don't get the additional 5-6% cost of capital that is added on when you raise through the broking firm. So for our shareholders and for the company, issuing equity to our drillers really allows our capital to go much further and drill more meters. There are escrow provisions, so it's not like the stock's going to immediately hit the market. There's a 6-month escrow, and they like what they see. So it's a vote of confidence. They work extensively in the area, and they like what the opportunities.
Excellent, thank you for that. And we've got a final question for you. Can you share more about the potential of the cane grass battery minerals project?
Yeah, look, I'm glad I've received that question. Cane grass we've spent a lot of work on over a couple of years. For history, we've started a farm-in to acquire this project. It's a mouthful, a vanadiferous titanomagnetite deposit, a VTM deposit. These are iron-rich magnetite bands running sort of north of 30% iron in the ground, but with them comes a lot of vanadium, values up to in excess of 1%. We have a very, very large resource here. We've got 130 million tonnes of global resource. We undertook some pit optimization studies at the beginning of last year and delivered, sorry, late 23, and delivered around 60 or 70 million tonnes of resource, which was using the current market pricing at the time, which was about $6 a pound from memory, maybe a touch higher. And that's what yielded the pits with conceptually volumes of material that on an annualized rate of 1.5 million tonnes a year would see in excess of 35 years of operation. So is an inferred resource, does require more work. Unfortunately, the vanadium price has taken a tumble over the last 18 months. It is down at sub $5 a pound, but the outlook looks positive. Vanadium is a commodity that's used primarily in steel. 90% of global production goes into steel sector. But a growing market is the vanadium redox flow battery, and these are starting to be built globally. They have significant advantages over lithium ion for long duration energy storage. The batteries last 25 years. There's no degradation. So after 25 years, you put the same amount of power in as you could at the start, unlike a lithium battery. No flammability issues. So for the workhorses for storing energy from large renewable energy projects, these are certainly best suited. And that's reflected in some of these very large facilities that have been built in China. There's an 800 megawatt battery, powers in excess of 100,000 homes. So the growth of that sector will see the demand increase. BRICS jurisdictions, China and Russia predominantly, account for 90% of global production. So there really is, and especially in the era of the Trumponomics and everything that's going on in the US, there could be, with what's happening in China, critical minerals brought into the fray, and there's opportunities to diversify supply. So this is an asset that we've got 100%. It's in good condition. Essentially, it's not our priority investment with our capital at the moment, just due to the market sentiment around the commodity, but we're well primed in the future to get additional value from this.
Thank you so much. Now, we've had such an informative webinar here, but I'll just throw it out to the floor. If anyone has any closing remarks they would like to mention about their company before we close off here at all. We're all good. I think we've definitely given a very insightful presentation here. So with that, I would like to thank all of you so much for attending today. Mr. Stan Wholley, Mr. Shane Menere, and Mr. Julian Woodcock. Thank you so much. On behalf of Kalkine Media, I'd like to extend my gratitude for addressing our audience with your insights and also patiently waiting for your other colleagues to speak. I'd also like to thank our audience for attending the webinar. We hope you found this session informative. If you do want to delve further into equity and market updates, audiences, you can visit our media site at www.kalkinemedia.com/au. Also, you can visit our equity research website at kalkine.com.au. Stay tuned with Kalkine Media for the upcoming InvestNest webinar series. I hope to see you all again soon, and best of luck with the future. Thank you so much.